Good morning, everyone. It's Tanya of Cute and Cuddly Nursery. I'm ready to start the blushing on Summer Rain's hands and feet, and so I wanted to share her. The sun is coming in really bright right now. I should have waited a little bit longer, but I wanted to get painting since the sun is up and Summer Rain's kind of fallen behind the other babies a little bit, so I need to get working on her. But here she is so far. She's still really pale looking, so I'm gonna warm her up in some other videos as well, but I want to do the blushing today. I'll show the other baby's progress. I'll grab little Madison here, and I'm really happy with Madison's tone, so I might add a little bit more to her mouth there, and her lips, but and then her inside of her ears, but pretty much the rest of her is ready for eyebrows. And then she's gonna have hair, and this is gonna be terrible to root. Oh my. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen very many Madisons rooted, so that could be why. And then over here I have Joseph, the 3 months asleep Joseph, and I'm going to leave him pretty much the same, really. He's, you know, an older baby, so his tone is gonna stay, her skin tone's gonna stay a bit lighter. And now my camera decided to go dark because the sun's shining bright in here, but yeah, he does need a purple layer. I'm going to do a reddish purple layer all over just to give him some more color. And then I'm going to do still the pink on him as well, and then he'll have the blue, a blue model as well at the very end. So here is Brittany asleep. I wonder if they'll come out with an awake Brittany, maybe. But she's looking really good as well. She does need darker lips inside the mouth as well. She's had a bit of the purple, red purple model, but she still needs a bit more, I think. And then I'll do a blue layer all over her as well, and that'll tone down the reds, and it'll just make her look, you know, more finished. And then last is my little Aria, and I'm happy with how she's looking. I may do a blue model or layer on her as well. I don't really get the model the same as I did with Genesis. I'm trying to put her in a spot where you can see what her coloring, because like I said, the lighting isn't the best right now. But there she is. Mirror, think mirror. There we go. But I really like her. I did darken her lips a little bit more on the edges yesterday, since I had that purpley red out. She does need a little bit more darker in her ears as well. And then I'll have to go over her creases again because they're a little on the light side. Sorry. But yeah, she's looking really good. And I'm going to give her some eyebrows, and then she'll have painted hair as well. So, and this one is one I'm thinking of keeping. I'm not sure yet, but I like the, you know, larger preemie, small newborn. And I think that she kind of fits that category. So we'll see when I get her together, though. Okay, so I do have some paints already mixed up. You can see that I've got like a red and a purple. Now I usually do the purple just to, you know, if you look at your own, like, you know, I can see like some mottling in my own skin, and it looks, you know, if I'm really cold, it looks purple. So for me, I don't see why you couldn't add purple a red purple to, you know, your tones. So even with the primary method, that's what I do. I just think that that purple really makes, you know, the color stand out even more, I guess, and it, you know, it looks more natural, I think. And I'm just showing Madison again. She's had the purple mottling or layer added. I use a sea sponge for all of my layers. If you've watched me paint before, this is my trusty sea sponge that I use for my mottling, and it's just a natural one that I found at Michael's, one of the Martha Stewart collection or whatever it's called. I've had actually the sponge for excuse me, a few years, and I just grab a little bit and, you know, tear off a chunk, and that way I've kept the rest in the cupboard. So, and it's packaging, so it's, you know, I use it for the silicone as well, and it's been really good. So, all right, and I'm just gonna grab her little foot to start out with, and I hope I can do this okay with the lighting being the way it is. I'm not too sure. I'll try to hold it, you know, over here just so we can get the lighting. But before I start, I'm going to tell you what color I use. So this is cadmium red golden fluid paint. And then I like how they always have like a little bit of a sample of what the color looks like. They've painted it on there. So I used that, but I find that it's a little bit on the pinky side, and I like to have like a deeper red. So, and I like to keep my paints really thin. So this is also Golden brand paint, and this is burnt umber. Oh, if I can figure out, there we go. And so it's got a bit of the coloring painted on the outside as well. And this burnt umber, this is air dry as well. I just bought it in the tube because the little bottles were out the one day that I needed brown. So this is air dry as well still. And so I just dip a little bit the paintbrush into the paint. This is thicker, so you don't need as much either. I just, like I said, I dip the tip of the paint brush. Let's see if we can, oh yeah, there we go, into the top here, and then, you know, not very much, and then I add it to my red and then mix it up. And if, when I'm happy with like a deep, you know, crimson red, then I'm good to go. So this has a little bit of the burnt umber in it already. Now I have this little sponge that I've ripped off of another sponge, and I put rubbing alcohol. I use 99%. That's what's in my bottle here. And if you need to remove any of the paint, if you get too much red, sometimes I go overboard, and then put it, the rubbing alcohol, and then gently, you know, kind of like rub the paint with, you know, on the foot, gently rub the area you want to remove some paint, and it should come off. So that's what I do. Okay, so I'm just going to, you know, I use my sponge. I got it wet already so it can take the paint so it won't bead off. So I'm just gonna use that to take some of my paint off, and here's my like catch-all type of sponge that I use for blotting and blending color. So I'm just going to get that wet really quickly. You don't want it to be dripping, you just want it to be damp. So, and then I'm just going to take my brush and apply right to it. And my hand's a little wet from touching the water, so. Alright, so, but I just kind of go along, and then I do get the water beading, can you see that? And that usually happens for my first layer. And so then you just kind of use the sponge and blot it in, and then I kind of go over again because I want coloring right, you know, through the whole foot. And then use the sponge to get any of the little pooling places, because you don't want, you want a nice blended foot. And you can see my color is very light. I want to keep her not too red. I want to be able to, you know, add layer by layer and not get completely red right away. I know some people don't want to do very many layers, but if you have more chances of messing up if you just put on a dark layer, and with air dry you don't have very much time to fix. So for me it's just safer and easier to do this. So we're getting a little bit of color on there. I really wish that sun would hurry up and go over the house. So I'm going along the edge too now. I don't paint the whole foot. I know a lot of people do, but I like to keep some area without the red. I just think it looks better that way. And you want to make sure that you blend in the edges into the foot. You don't want any, like, what is that, abrupt edge or whatever. Well, you want a line there. I'm going to do the same thing with her little toes. Not exactly the same. I will brush it on instead of like dabbing the paint on with the brush. So I want a more smooth motion. You can kind of see some color developing now. And like I said, I don't want to go, I forgot to blot that before. I don't want to go too dark with the foot. I might come back in with another deeper red. So I would just add a bit more burnt umber to that, and then add the deeper red along the foot here and along the edge, but kind of, you know, not all over like this, just kind of a pattern, just so it's kind of like lighter and darker, I guess, contrast, like the face. I don't know if I haven't really done that with her face yet with the blushing. So maybe I can show that as well. So here's the bottom of the foot so far. I might want to add just a bit of color actually in the middle here. But on the outer we'll go darker still. There we go. I don't know how many times I've gone around, but if you're watching the video, you can count as I go. But probably at least 6 or 7 times I'll go over this, if not maybe a little bit more. It's better to start with light colors and do many layers, so just keep that in mind because you don't want to have to strip a baby. Oh, maybe I'll go over this like 10 times actually. It's quite a few. Let me grab a Brittany foot. And these are the... Brittany's foot is all finished, of course. And then how Submarine's foot is looking so far. So yeah, we got a little ways to go. You can, like I said, you can make the paint, more pigmented with more paint, but I would rather not have to start over if I put too much. So it's easier to, darken it than it is to lighten it. So just to be safe, going this route. I really hope this turns out. If this video doesn't turn out, I'll do another one. So it's not the best lighting right now, like I said. The sun is shining right in here, and usually I don't paint with the sun shining right in like this. I have the curtains closed a bit more, but then it's too dark for the camera. Kind of doing the creases on my toes here too, if you notice. So I'm getting right in between them up close there. Just want to add a little bit more color to the bottom of that foot. Make sure there's no pooling anywhere. Nice pink little foot. And you can paint the toes at the same time if you want. I usually do, and that way it gives the foot a bit of a chance to dry. The toes are tricky though, because you got to make sure that you don't have any color on the other side of the toes. That might pool, and then your toes aren't going to look very good. So, and then you got to keep an eye on the nails, because some of the paint can get on the nail, like I just did as well. So you want to get that off of the nail, and just keep the coloring on the toes. And then blend. So right now you can't see any difference to the toes really. Oh, my ring is just keeps spinning around on me. I don't know what to do about that. So you see me adjusting it, that's what I'm doing. Okay. So I just kind of like paint around on the toes. And the toes, I feel like, take the longest because you gotta be really careful and make sure you don't have any pooling or any on the nail. So it can be hard to remove. And then of course keep an eye on the between the toes and the creases as well. So you don't want any pooling there either. And you want to blend the paint just like the side of the foot. You want to do the same with the little toes as well. And this paint, since it's air dry, has a tendency to, when you're painting, you know, go kind of slow because it does kind of spray out or splash everywhere else. So just keep that in mind as well, especially if you're doing multiple babies like I have back here. You know, I wouldn't want to splash little Madison with little red spots, so just keep that in mind too. You know, to your work surface, I guess it would be splattered too. Still a long way to go. So tempted to add a little bit more red, but I don't want anyone else to possibly mess up because I put too much color. But really, it's up to you. If you wanted to add more, you can. I got a little bit of that splattering happening to the toes. So just, yeah, like I said, go slow. It's not a race unless you have a deadline, and then I suggest don't do deadline unless you have, you know, plenty of time. My goodness. I have a bit of a cold, so hopefully feeling better tomorrow. Just have like that scratchy throat kind of feel lately in the mornings especially, and then like a head cold kind of stuffed up feel today, so doing light painting. I already painted on Sophie May her nails this morning. She's the silicone I'm working on. She's the Sophie May Asleep by Toby Morgan. And if anyone's interested in trying silicone, I would definitely recommend Sherry Bowden. I buy my silicone kits from her. And I mean, they're really, really good priced, so very affordable if you want to try silicone. And she also just sells heads if you want to, like, you know, practice before. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing like a tutorial on a silicone or on silicone. I know I have a couple of videos up, but not, you know, showing like finishing the silicone at all. So I may do that eventually. It'd be nice and helpful for people if they want to do silicone. I've seen some people selling their silicones because they're just too afraid to possibly ruin a kit. And I understand that, you know, the silicones are a lot more expensive. They're like 4 or 5 times more depending on what you get. I'm actually getting my second full body kit for silicone. It's going to take me, I think, 5 more months to pay off, because I can't afford that kind of money all at once either. So, but yeah, I've got a Lucy by Kat Johnson. She had a wonderful price for her as a full body baby. So, and she'll be a newborn size, sleeping, and she is a girl, and I'm just really excited to see her in person, as well as Kat's work. I know she's been doing vinyl for so long, and now she's getting into silicone, and I had no idea she could sculpt, but her babies that she sculpted so far look really nice, so I'm excited about that. Oh, I got a little bit in the crease here that I can't reach with the sponge, so I'm just grabbing a dry brush and getting that out of there, so we are good. Oh, I hope I'm in frame now, I'm not sure. I have the camera behind my shoulder just so that it's not, you know, in the way or whatever. Might have gotten too much red on that one toe, so we might have to go over that a little bit with our rubbing alcohol, which is fine. Again, I have no idea what layer I would be on as far as painting, but I know I've done quite a few. And I just go by, like, it doesn't really matter how many layers you do. If you're, you know, you just go until you're happy with it, right? So if you're happy with how the foot is looking, you know, of course stop. But if you want, you know, more color, keep going, you know. Some people like the lighter pink on a baby, so, you know, I guess you would stop at this point, but of course make sure that your little toes match the rest of the foot color. I have a little bit of the rubbing alcohol on here. I'm just trying to rub a little bit of an edge that was on there off and blend it a little more. I touched the other foot or toe. There we go. Now, if you're seeing that you've got, you know, between the toes they're really light, you can go over the whole bottom of the toe there with some of your red, and it'll blend it in better and look more natural, rather than having these little tips of the toes so red compared to the rest. And also do that to the other side of the toe as well, so that it's all uniform looking and blended. So, like, I'll go over like around the top of the toes as well. And then make sure to take any off of the nail. If you get like a piece of sometimes the paint will get dry. Okay, so here is the foot so far. Oh, the lighting looks better now. I wonder why. I turned off the camera and back on because it stopped recording. So add a little bit more coloring to the foot here. And then I think we are going to darken, but I want to get the other, her other limbs to this point as well. Just so that I can match them all, of course, to her foot here, and then that way they all match before I move on. But I think she's looking really good. Her foot, anyway, is looking good. I'm just gonna add a little bit more pink out here. But like I said, I want to keep it within the outer and the top and the heel area, and keep the inside a little bit more light. And then I also want to come in between the toes on the other side and add a little bit of color as well. I don't want very much paint on my brush. Just want to add a little bit of coloring to her feet, so not too much between the toes and whatnot. Any pooling paint, you want to make sure you get the corner of your sponge in there and get that out of there. Okay, so now I've got a little bit of coloring on the foot up here. If I can, there we go. So I think her foot's looking good. It's still, of course, not as dark as Submarine, but it's getting, oh, it's very close. So, yeah. Alright, I'm going to, yeah, I think that looks good. Work on one of her hands next. So this is one. I haven't added any blushing. I've just done her creases. So if you've seen, I think it's the third video, I show how I do creases. So one layer so far. Also added a little bit of coloring to her nails before. I should do another separate video showing how I paint nails. So I guess I could show a little bit in this one. Possibly it doesn't take me too long. The video cut off before. I'm not sure where, but I'll get this video and the previous part connected into one video, so I'm just hoping it's not too long. Make sure you always go in and blot the colors when you add new so that you don't have any little pooling spots, because when the paint dries, you get little rings, and then where the paint evaporated in the middle, you're left with these outer rings, and it doesn't look good. Just going to do the fingers the same way that I did the toes. And then the fingers that are bent. If you need to use a smaller brush, certainly go ahead. Use whatever brushes that you are most comfortable with. This is not the best brush that I have, but I go through so many brushes. If you use silicone or are into silicone at all, you know you go through brushes a lot. These I just kind of use the brush until it's no longer recognizable, I guess, and then I get you. But I think this one might have been like an expensive one that I got at Michael's, and you can see that it used to be black, but keeping it in the paint dish, or not the paint dish, but the water dish, has made it turn. And of course the paint chipped off because it got, you know, waterlogged, and this is how it looks now. So, but it still works. I'm, you know, fine with it. Might as well paint both fingers at the same time since they're right next to each other. A little hair on there. There we go. Good thing about this paint is that hair one will come off. It'll rub off. Like with Genesis, that's another thing I liked with the Genesis paints, is that if you got a hair at all, it would just wipe right off. It didn't stick at all. And then when I was using Miracle Blend paints, though, I found that the paint or the hairs would get embedded in the paint, and that's not good. So that's another downfall I found with Miracle Blend. I'm transitioning from the Ultimate Fusion paints over to the golden. I think I might have mentioned that before. And I just find that the golden paints are more pigmented. You don't need as much, and they're actually cheaper because I can get them locally and don't have to order them from the US. So, and I just found, you know, I find that the colors are nicer, more true to color, I guess, if you want to call it that. Or if that's the right term, but as far as the colors go. So I found a lot of the Ultimate Fusion reds were more of like pink, and I wanted a true red. Which is another reason why I switched to. But I still have some of my Ultimate Fusion just to use it up. But if you're using Ultimate Fusion, that's perfectly fine. You could probably use Genesis heat set paint with my techniques as well. You just have to set each color before you move on to the next. That's what I like about the air dry paints, is that you just can do the next part. You don't have to take time to bake, and it's better for you. not to bake the babies as well. Okay, so there's a little hand. I'm just going to grab her foot, see how far we are off. Oh yeah, we got a little ways to go. So I'm just going to continue going over the hand just like the foot for what seems like 100 times. It might have been 100 times. Anybody keep track? Because I did not. Some people ask me how long it takes to dry between layers, but as you can see, I'm just going over them, kind of hopping between the different fingers and whatnot, parts of the hand. But I mean, when it looks dry, I would say it's dry. So I mean, some people have said they've heard to let it dry for 72 hours before moving on to the next layer, and it's like, what? No, it only takes a couple of minutes, and especially if it's warm where you are. There's a little spot I can't reach with my sponge. There we go. I really like that pink color. I don't know if you can tell, but that pink is really pretty. Soft pink color. Just making sure there's no pooling inside the hand at all, because I don't want it to do that. So we have to fix. And then if you have trouble spots, you know, grab a dry brush and kind of pull any of that out that you can't reach with the sponge. It's the edges of her fingers need a little bit more coloring. And if you do paint the nail a little too much, just use like a flesh base at the end when you're doing the nails to just kind of add that moon back in there. So it's easy to do, add too much color to the nails when you're using air dry paint as well. And make sure you get everything really well blended. Can't get that one crease again inside. Now I feel like I'm just about, oh dear, all that notifications, email and whatnot. Check that in a bit. Now I will be doing a blue layer towards the, or at the end, just to like blend all the red and everything, so it's not like right now she's kind of like a pinky peach tone, and so that'll calm that down when you add blue as well. Because I don't want her to be too peachy. I want her to be more of like a red tone. Okay, I'm gonna grab her foot and just do think that looks pretty good to me. So, alright, so I'd say that is it. I'm gonna grab her face here. Just add a little bit of coloring to her lips down at the bottom. I want to build that little border that, you know, along the lip. Oh, my battery's dying. Okay, so hopefully it won't die anytime soon. Took me a little while to get the camera positioned to where I wanted it for the video, so I was worried about it eating up the battery, but I didn't really think it would, but it appears that it did. Just adding a bit more color to her eyelids. And I'm just going to dip my brush into the water just to dilute the coloring and then add it to the inside of her ear there, because I do want her ears to be a deeper color inside. And then around the inside as well, or the outer, inner outer, I don't know what to call it, but out here. And then as far as the edge of the ear, I got some of that over spray or whatever you want to call it from the brush. So I'm just dabbing that in because you want like some of the pattern from the brush to stay. I just dab, and that way you get, you know, like that different, you know, light and dark areas like the skin would naturally have. Oh my goodness. Everybody. Okay, so I do the same. Oh, didn't I do the inside of this one? I forget. That's okay, we'll check her later. I didn't do the, oops. No. There we go. Just blot all that color in. And then the outer edge of the ear a bit more. And then I'm going to go over it once more. I'll have to look at her and see if she needs any more added. And if I add more, I'll try to remember to mention it, that I added another layer or two to her ear. Okay, I don't know where it cut off, but the battery died, so now I have another battery. I went a third time over the edges of the ears and made them a little darker. I don't know if you can tell. But yeah, so she's a little darker for the ears, and I think I need to go over in the inside again a little bit more. Make them just a little darker on the inside. I might have to go over that little nub there just to, because it got a little bit too much paint on it. Let's see, I'm going to add a little bit of color over like her whole lid here, just so it looks more natural and not like I missed something. Get in the corner of the eye as well. Oh, I think that looks better. She does have a little crease under her eyes, but I don't want to make it too dark, because then that'll look like bags under her eyes, and we don't want her to look like that. Okay, I'm just trying to think where we can add more color. There we go. So I think she's looking good. I do need to add more in the ears still. Like, it's not dark enough for me in there. And I'm going to be, I bought a bunch of Prisma pencils the other day. And so I'm going to be showing how to use them for capillaries. I'm hoping that'll work for that. If I can't, get in the ear enough to use them, I will, they'll at least be really good for the eyelids, I think. So I still need to darken her lips more, I think, at least on the edges. And some paint doesn't want to stick in some places, so I'm not really sure. Somehow I'm going to have to figure out how to get it to stick there. Like along the inside there. It doesn't want to, oh there. It's starting to fill in. So I usually take that out because of I don't want a dark line inside there. But I removed too much and then there's no paint in there. So you do want some paint in the creasing of the lips. So her lip is still looking very, very pink. So I'm not sure if I want to just maybe keep it like that. And then I don't want too much color over the lip. I want to create that border along the top of the lip. I don't know if you can see. but hopefully. I'm just brushing upward with the sponge, but I'm not going all the way because I don't want to take off too much of that line that I just created. So her lips so far. I do need to do the inside of her nose as well. And you don't want the brush to be very wet to do that either, the nostrils. If you add a bit of blue, that'll shade it darker too. But I'm not to that point with her yet. Maybe a little bit more coloring on her nose. And then under the nose part as well. Okay, so I think she's looking very cute. She definitely needs darker lips though. They're a little too unnatural looking, I guess. Any more, maybe a bit of blue would help. And I'm gonna get to that point very soon. Starting to look realistic, I think. Wasn't sure about this baby to start out with, but I think she's growing on me now that I'm getting paint on her. And seeing her transition to look more real. A little spot of paint there. Here we go. Yeah. So I want to do purple as well. I know people are gonna fuss at me for that's not the primary method, but I'm using primary colors to get that color, so it should be fine. I think. Okay, so I have a little bit of this does not work, so I actually just, I don't know why it's like faulty, but I just dip my sponge into the solution. And I have a little bit too much of the coloring on this little, it's called it a little bulby part that sticks up. So I just gently rub on it. Don't do too much. You could take off too much paint and it's not gonna look good. So just a little bit. That's what I like about these paints too, is that if I need to go in and do any little corrections, I can use rubbing alcohol and do it. So I'm not sure who suggested that to me, but thank you so much. Because this definitely helps. I know, like, when I was using like the Miracle Blend paint or even the Genesis paint, and I needed to do a correction, I was stripping the whole baby because I couldn't just do one little thing. Oh my gosh, I'm so popular today. I have no idea what all that is, but I better check my messages. So I am going to let you all go, and I'm going to get all these videos edited together to make one. And I'm not sure what I'll do in the next one. I think we'll just do the purple layer. Like I want to do like a reddish purple all over her, and that'll make her coloring, you know, pop more. Like even looking at my own, I see like little purple. I don't know if you can see those little dots all over, little like purpley showing through. But oh, I have a bruise. That's interesting. But yeah, so you can, you know, on my own skin, I can see like purpley dots and whatnot. So, and you know, some babies have like purpley too, right? When they're newborn. So I'm going to do a purple layer. You won't really be able to tell. It'll be like Madison. I'll grab Madison now that the lighting's a little better. And you can see some purple a little bit in her tone as well. And it just, you know, makes them look so much better. So yeah, Madison's almost done. I'm so excited to see her finish because she's like one of my favorite kits. So alright, I am going to go get the videos together and uploaded for you all. And then I will be back and we will do like a reddish purple layer on Summer Rain. And I'm going to first, though, add it to Joseph, and then I'll get to Summer Rain tomorrow for the video. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you're having a great Tuesday.